Hello again and welcome to another edition of Shed Talk. This is my magazine video series that looks at the breeding, keeping and showing of exhibition budgerigars, mainly here in the UK. So what have we got in this video? So a bit like most people I expect, I continuously look at the birds and try and assess them and see where I'm lacking any particular features. And whilst I've not yet done a full assessment of all of my birds, I normally do that end of August, beginning of September. When I was out at the last show, although it was quite a small show, it did give me a chance to think about where I might want to focus in the coming year, so in the next breeding season, and that's what we're going to look at in this video. So where I'd like to focus my attention in terms of improving my birds, taking them forward over the next year. Before we look at the three areas that I particularly want to think about in my birds, this doesn't mean that all the other areas that I'm not focusing on are perfect. My birds are, I've got miles and miles and miles to go in order to get my birds up to the standard, any sort of standard where I can compete reasonably on the show bench. But this is just three areas that I think I can begin to improve, begin to look at and begin to focus on, like I say, over the next breeding season. So what are those three areas then that I'm going to focus on? So in no particular order then, the first area that I want to think about is a problem that I've spoken about quite a bit in a number of videos, and a number of people quite rightly have pointed out in the comment section or have messaged me about it, and that is the hook or hinged tail in my birds. So I clearly want to try and get rid of that, particularly where it's showing as a major fault in the birds, and if I'm not careful it will just run its way through the whole of my or all of my birds that I've got. So that's the first area that I want to look at. The next area in terms of improvement is an area of feather that is sort of below the eye but just above the beak. And I was looking at some birds recently on a number of shows and a number of photographs or videos that people have posted online and also at the show, and it's a feature that I do like. It makes the bird appear much wider in the face, and it's a feature that my birds I certainly don't have at the moment. But we'll talk a little bit more about exactly what I mean by that in another video, in a future video coming up. For this video I want to focus on the third area that I want to improve this year, and that's the size of the spots. And we'll look at a couple of my birds to demonstrate what I mean by this in just a second. But really my birds, whilst I've got quite nice, most of my birds have got quite nice long masks, the size of the spot just doesn't reflect that, and it makes the bird look a little bit unbalanced in the mask, I think. And certainly when I'm out comparing my birds on the show bench, it's a feature that really stands out in my eye that my birds are lacking. So that's what we'll focus on in this particular video, and I'll talk about how I might go about improving the size of the spots on my birds. Well, I've got a couple of birds out for us to have a look at and see what I mean by those areas that I want to focus on. But before I do that, as always, thanks to all those people who are supporting the channel, or those that are watching this right now, and in particularly those that have taken time to send me some pictures of your birds. It's always appreciated. Don't forget, if you want your birds to appear in one of the future videos, just PM me or post them on the Shed Talk Facebook page. And if you haven't joined the Facebook page, then do go over and join that as well. And once again, as I say it nearly always, thanks to all those of you who support the channel through subscribing. It always helps. It does help the channel if you subscribe to it. So let's have a quick look at the birds then. So here we go then. I'll start with a couple of my birds. These birds you will I would have thought, if you've watched the videos before, be reasonably familiar with. On the left is what I consider to be one of my better birds. It's a sky blue, a normal sky blue, and on the right is actually one of his sons, so which is a cobalt, a normal cobalt, both cockbirds, as you can see. So we'll start looking at the older of the two birds, so the parent bird, and you can see what I mean here. So this particular bird, he actually sitting not too badly, but does have a little bit of a hinged tail, although sitting quite reasonably at the moment. But I think you'll agree that in terms of spots on the mask, there's definite room for improvement, and I'm sure the size of the spots on this bird certainly let him down on the show bench, as well as that slight hinged tail. Otherwise, I quite like this bird, but you can see the size of the spots there. And whilst I have some slightly bigger spotted birds in the flight, certainly this particular family is lacking them. We'll go across to his son. And whilst this is still a fairly youngish bird, so only just over 6 months old, I think, you can still see, and clearly the spots will grow a bit bigger than they are now. And there's a slight improvement on Dad in terms of the size of them, but not massively. And again, it's certainly letting this bird, this young bird down. In terms of that fault around the tail, this one's not quite so bad, as you can see. That's quite a nice tail. Not sitting particularly well at the moment, and does stand better than that. Does stand much further up off the perch. And I'll just see if I can get him to do that a bit. And there you can see when he stands a bit better, shows himself off much better. But again, lacking in spots. Without a doubt, it's spots on this particular family that I will need to improve on. So how am I going to do that? Well, let's have a look, shall we? So here we are. I was fortunate that at the last show I went to, there were a number of birds in the sales class that are actually very, very reasonably priced. You know, they were less than you would probably pay in a pet shop for a pet type bird. So I'm certainly not complaining about the overall standard of the birds that I've got here. So there are two, so it's a cock and a hen, and you can probably see they're both opalines. Cockbird is on the right and the hen on the left. The hen is a little bit stressed out at the moment. She doesn't like being in the show cage at all, and doesn't present herself very well when she's in there. But overall, the main purpose behind this was when I looked at them, I'd been thinking about this idea that I needed to improve the spots on the birds, and both these two birds have got really nice spots in terms of the size of them, but plus the position of them from my point of view. Now I know that people will be saying, well, they're opalines, so they're bound to have nice big spots. However, I've also seen the family that these birds have come out of, and they've got nice big spots as well. So I'm hoping, if I can get the hen to look round at me a little bit, I'm hoping that if I put these two outcrosses into this blue family, I will improve the spots on this family. I clearly need to think about how I'm going to do that, because, you know, we've got a cockbird, so I'll need to find one of this blue's offspring or a related hen that I can put him to. and the hen can go into either him or one of his offsprings to help try and improve the spot size. As I say, neither of these two new birds, the two birds we're looking at now, have got the problem with the hinged tail. In fact, the style of the cockbird on the right is really nice. Got that nice sort of straight or almost arched back with the tail coming out slightly, that I know some people like. Could do with standing a little bit more upright, I think, but going back again, I've said this, this family here, including the youngster that we looked at earlier, does have the ability to pull that back in, so that uprightness. So that's my plan with these two birds, and like I say, they're not a bird that I would that is going to offer much more than I've just said. So improve the spot size and probably improve the stance to some extent of the bird, so the overall style of the birds that I want. If I can get the spots off this cockbird onto the sky blue and the cobalt offspring of his, then I think I will be really happy. And then I've got the other features that I'm focusing on next year as well, but these two birds aren't going to help me too much with that, I don't think, although I have seen, like I say, the family these have come out of, and it's a really nice family, so who knows, they may just click and produce better than themselves in terms of their what they've got, the other qualities they've got around the head. So these are the two new birds in the shed, currently being quarantined. I have about another week in quarantine before I move them into the main flight. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. And like I say, I didn't pay big money for these birds, so bear that in mind when you're making those comments. But there we go. So as I say, let me have your comments, your thoughts on the birds, on those two new birds, and how I'm thinking they might improve the overall spot size on this blue family. Well, there we go. That's it for this slightly shorter video than usual. And as I just said, do let me know your thoughts on my plans with those two new birds and how I might try and improve the spots on particularly that blue family. Coming up in the next video is we're going to look at going away. So, and what I mean by that is I'm about to go away myself. So about to go away on holiday. First time in a few years due to the pandemic stopping us from doing that. And what I thought I'd do is just talk briefly about what I'm planning to do with the shed in order to make this easier for the person who's going to look after the birds, who is a non-birding person. So that's for the next video. But until then, don't forget, if you do enjoy the videos, do hit the like button, and of course do subscribe, early notifications. Don't forget to click on the bell. But until the next video, do stay safe and enjoy your birds.